Hello and welcome. I'm Amitabh, Mattoo of the Australia-India Institute.
And I'm Reece from the Melbourne School of Government.
And welcome to Election Watch 2014, a quick primer to the Indian national election.
The Indian national election is the biggest democratic vote in the world. It is nothing short of a miracle of human endeavour and a wonder of modern administration that a developing nation with 1.2 billion people is able to pull off an exercise of this scale. This slide provides a snapshot of some of the key figures around this election, and they are nothing less than a marvel. There are 815 million registered voters. There are 830,000 polling stations, and Indians will cast their vote on 1.2 million of India's unique electronic voting machines. And of course, helping them do that will be the 11 million polling personnel who assist people with their votes and provide security around polling stations. This slide just provides a short background on India's political system. India is a federal republic and it has a federal system of government. It shares that model with countries like the United States, Germany, Canada and Australia. India currently has 28 states and 7 union territories. From June this year, that number is going to grow to 29 states, with a new state being formed. The national capital of India is New Delhi, and the country is governed by a constitution which was signed in 1950. That constitution sets out that India is a sovereign and democratic country. As a result of amendments that have been made to the Constitution, India is also a secular and socialist country. Reflecting its modern history, India has a Westminster parliamentary system. It's a system which will be very familiar to people who follow politics in countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand or Britain. This diagram provides a simple overview of India's parliamentary system. Because it is a democracy, everything starts with the voters, who you can see at the bottom of the screen. The Parliament of India, also popularly known as Sansad, is the supreme legislative body. The Parliament comprises the President of India and 2 houses: Lok Sabha, the House of the People, and Rajya Sabha, Council of the States. The Parliament is composed of 790 MPs who serve the largest democratic electorate in the world. The Prime Minister is elected from the Lok Sabha, and by convention, the Prime Minister is the leader of the parliamentary party which has the greatest numbers in the House. The Prime Minister in turn selects his or her cabinet ministers, and those cabinet ministers can come from the lower house or the upper house. The Rajya Sabha or upper house is elected indirectly. Its 238 members are elected by the state assemblies. That reflects its status as the state's house. Now we start to get into some of the nuts and bolts of how the election actually works. India has 543 constituencies across its 35 states and territories. Because the vote itself is such a massive exercise, it is divided across 9 voting phases or days across 5 weeks, spanning 7 April to 12 May. On this map here, you can see the different dates on which voting takes place in different regions. So, for example, the pink regions have voting on the 12th of April, the green regions have voting on the 7th of April, the purple on the 12th of May. Voting concludes on the 12th of May, and then 4 days later, the election result is declared, and Indians will know the makeup of their new lower house.
There are 3 main parties and alliances who are contesting this election. The oldest party is the Congress Party, which leads the United Progressive Alliance and has been in power for 10 years. The president is Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, but the de facto prime ministerial candidate is the young, urbane Rahul Gandhi, who's been educated at Harvard and at Cambridge, and in his early 40s represents a youthful idealism. Unfortunately, during the election campaign, Rahul does not seem to have been able to connect with the masses, with the people. But only time will tell whether his youthful idealism will translate into electoral dividends for the Congress Party. And mind you, there is a huge anti-incumbency factor that works against the Congress and the United Progressive Alliance. The National Democratic Alliance, led by the BJP, is hoping to wrest power from the Congress Party. The BJP is seen as a center of a right Hindu nationalist party, and it is led by the charismatic but equally polarizing figure of Narendra Modi, who has been Chief Minister of Gujarat for 3 consecutive terms. The Chief Minister is equivalent to the Premier of an Australian province. Narendra Modi brings with him a record of good governance, economic development, of a higher growth rate than the rest of India, but also a shadow of 2002 when there were violent riots in which several members of the minority community were killed. In the last 10 years, there have been no riots, and Mr. Modi has not spoken controversially on any issue of communal relations, but there is that shadow which continues to impinge on his political future. In direct contrast to the 2 old orthodox parties, the Congress and the BJP, is the new party called the Aam Aadmi Party, the common man's party led by a charismatic Arvind Kejriwal. In contrast to the other 2 parties which are funded by corporate India, Aam Aadmi Party is funded by transparent donations from individuals from within India and the diaspora outside. The Aam Aadmi Party was born out of a huge anti-corruption movement in 2010 and almost managed to win a majority in the elections to the Delhi State Assembly. They were in power because they were the single largest party, but Kejriwal, the Chief Minister and the leader of the Aam Aadmi Party, resigned after 49 days. He's hoping now to make a difference at the national level, but is it too early for an Aam Aadmi Party to be able to really break into a traditional bastion of the Congress and the BJP?
Current opinion polls paint quite a clear picture in this election. They show that the BJP-led National Democratic Alliance is in a very strong position to win this election. The first 3 polls we see on this chart, the India Today poll, the CNN poll and the Nielsen poll, were taken in January. And they all show BJP having a commanding lead. The final poll was taken in March by NDTV. It was a huge poll with 200,000 respondents, and it also showed the BJP being in the box seat to win this election. Opinion polls, though, need to be taken with a grain of salt in India. Polling such a huge nation with such a diverse population is notoriously difficult. There are very strong regional factors at play, and it is very hard to find a single pan-Indian sentiment. And there's a long history of pollsters getting their predictions wrong. For most of its modern history, since the 1950s, India was effectively a one-party state, led by Congress, the party of Gandhi and Nehru. But from the 1980s onwards, other parties, most notably the BJP, have emerged to challenge Congress's domination. There are 2 factors, at least, which are seen to drive this shift from a 1 to a 2 to a multi-party state. The first of those is the rise in importance and the authority of the states in India's federation. This has concentrated media and political attention down at a state level, where many important decisions are made. And this has also led to the emergence of a second factor, the rise of regional parties. These regional parties reflect those local issues and local trends, and their rise has occurred at the same time as we've seen a demise of the national parties. This has fundamentally changed politics in India. It has robbed the two giants, Congress and BJP, of much of their support, and it means that for both of those big parties, that brokering alliances with other smaller parties is just as important as securing voter support when it comes to forming government.
It may well seem that this is really a presidential election given the strong personalities of leaders who are leading the main coalitions and parties, Rahul Gandhi of the UPA, Narendra Modi of the NDA, and Arvind Kejriwal of AAP. But this is not a presidential election, it's a parliamentary system of government, and there are issues which impact on the voters and how they'll decide who they'll vote for. And clearly, the issue which is right on top is the economy. The economy over the last 5 years has fallen into recession. The growth has dropped to less than 5%, and used to be a few years ago 10%. Inflation is rising. Unemployment is higher than ever before. So clearly, economic issues top the issues in terms of salience. Equally important, or slightly less important, is the issue of corruption. In the last few years, the UPA-led government has witnessed a huge number of scams, beginning with the scam over the Commonwealth Games, to the scam over 2G spectrum auctions, to the scam over mining. And this has had a huge public impact, also really eroded the base of the UPA. But beyond that, there is clearly also the anti-incumbency factor which works against the Congress and its UPA alliance, as well as the question of leadership, which is an important issue. But as I said, that's not the issue which is overwhelming this election, because beyond the contest between Modi, Gandhi and Kejriwal are clearly issues of bread and butter which impact the Indian electorate.